I was live for already 41 years.
41?
Yes, I'm 41. Well, you thought I was older or younger? Huh?
Plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. I'm not a woman. I could be older. You know, I don't mind if you think I'm older than I look.
You look
Okay.
wise.
I look wise. Thank you. Thank you.
Very distinguished.
Okay. Huh?
Very distinguished.
Very distinguished. Yes? Who's younger? I'm younger than you? How'd that happen? Okay. So as I mentioned, we're going to do a brief review on last week's Gemara, which was speaking about the moon and how it was determined what day is the Jewish month. Okay? Then tomorrow we're going to begin the new quota, which is going to be speaking about the shofar, that horn that we blew today and that we blow on Rosh Hashanah. In Chabad, we blow the horn for 30 days before. As a matter of fact, many Sfardim also blow the horn for 30 days before. We're going to speak about this horn that we blow that is made out of a ram's horn, why it's out of a ram's horn, why not a different horn. We're going to be learning that starting tomorrow, okay? Now, we're going to do a brief review over last week's material, and then I want to go, if you don't mind, on a bit of a rant about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, because as we spoke about yesterday, he's trending. Thanks to some anti-Semites, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is trending. Okay? As you may know, I personally met the Lubavitcher Rebbe many times, and I would like to speak about those experiences, if you don't mind. And that will be towards the end of the class. So stay put if you want to hear some serious, fiery, yeah, you look like you're excited for that. Yes! I'm going to yell at all those people who not only misunderstand the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but misunderstand themselves. Like, unfortunately, many people today, they think they're one thing and they're really another thing, like they completely misunderstand themselves. So I'm going to be explaining as well that, the very fact that people spoke about the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the way that they spoke about him is because not only do they misunderstand the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but they also misunderstand themselves. Okay? And that's what I'm going to explain after the class, because it's very important towards the end of the class, because it's going to be part of this class as well. And for all you viewers out there, thanks for joining. We'd love to have you, but I just ask one favor. If whatever platform are you on, if you're on YouTube, you have to hit subscribe and the bell so that you get notified every time that I do a class or that we do a class here. Okay? And if you're on any other ones, you have to share, you have to like, whatever you want. Please do it right away before the class begins, because you're going to get so fired up from the class, you might not remember to do it later. So do it now so you don't forget. Right away. Let's go. Okay? Now, I want to remind you, as we're going to go briefly through last week's material, we're talking about establishing the Jewish lunar month, which was established by the Beth Din in Israel. It had to be a Beth Din in Israel, and it had to be a minimum of 3 members who were appointed to establish the Jewish month, and every single month they had to establish it based on witness testimony that they saw the moon. Okay, you ever heard of a moon watcher? Huh? No? A moon watcher. Yeah. Good morning from London. Thank you. Some Zoe Don Anderson. Thanks for wishing us a good morning. Good morning to you too. Anyways, please stick around. We have some very interesting material coming up. So, 3-member Beis Din, they need to interview 2 witnesses who were moon watching the night before and saw the new moon. That's how they did it every single month. However, once the Sanhedrin and the Jewish people began being scattered all over the world, the rabbis were in fear that Jews would start keeping different holidays on different days based on different people's acceptance of when the month started and when it didn't, and they felt it would be what's called in Israel Abalagan. If you want to learn an Israeli word, it's actually a Russian word that's used in Israel. It's called Balagan. You tell a Russian Balagan, he knows exactly what you're talking about, and if you tell an Israeli Balagan, they also know exactly what you're talking about. Okay? So, The Abalagan would be is every Jew, one Jew is following Rosh Hashanah on one day, the next one is following it on another day. Like one Jew eats rice on Pesach and one Jew does not eat rice on Pesach. Right? We have a lot of these problems in Judaism where different Jews follow different traditions. It doesn't make a conducive Jewish nation, and therefore the rabbis actually built a calendar with extremely precise mathematics that will tell you exactly when the new moon is going to be, right? And as a matter of fact, you can look at the Jewish calendar and you could know exactly when the moonless night is and when the new moon is going to come, based on these calculations from 2,000 years ago, and they're still flippin' accurate. Actually, it's a little less than 2,000 years ago, yeah. But the fact is they're still very accurate till this day, which is amazing, okay? It's next level, as we say over here. Then our Gemara went through a whole back and forth. Why did we need to mention each case? We had a case where we said that the Beis Din themselves saw it, and all the Jews saw it. Well, why did we have to say and all the Jews saw it? So we said, you may have thought that if it was so obvious that the new moon came out, even if the Beis Din did not make an announcement to say that it's a new month, you might thought that it still is going to be the new month even without the proclamation of Beis Din. The Mishnah had to tell you otherwise, right? Good. Then it went through, why do we have to tell you about if the witnesses were already cross-examined? Well, you might have thought that if the witnesses cross-examined by the rabbis, that might also help. And we say, no, that does not help either. Okay, so we're going one step at a time. First, you might have thought if everybody sees it, it's good enough. No, because the Beis Din have to be the ones to do it. Right? Your camera just went like that. Okay? Yeah, good. And so again, you might have thought, okay, so the Beis Din have to do it, but they actually deliberated. They actually interviewed the witnesses. No, the Gemara says no. We're going one by each thing in the Mishnah. Okay? Yeah. Then we said, what happens if the Beis Din themselves see it? Do they see it in the day or do they see it in the night? We went back and forth, all those things, etc. And then we asked at the end, really, the last thing we really asked was, why can't a single rabbi determine the month? Why do we have to have a minimum of 3? And we said that even back in biblical times, 3 was necessary because we see that God demanded that Aaron be there when they established the first month. The first month that was ever established based on the lunar calendar was quoted in the Bible, in Exodus, in Shemois, Chumash Shemois, where God says this is the new month. He tells Moses that this is the new month, and he asked Aaron to be there. So you had Moses, Aaron, and God. So there was a 3-member team of rabbis doing it. Okay?
Just for the devoting, 3 general for everything.
Again, we're speaking specifically about establishing the new Jewish month. You need 3 minimum rabbis to do so. Yeah. Okay? Now, that's pretty much, it was a very quick summary, but that's pretty much the summary of what we learned today, what we learned last week. There's a lot of details, but that's for you guys. I want you guys to go it over word for word and know what each word means and how each word fits into its sentences, because that will help you as an individual understand how the Gemara is when you're understanding it in its original language. I want to tell everybody, I know you're going to say, I'm saying this all the time to you guys here in person, and I'm going to say this a few times to you guys out there. If you want to properly understand the Talmud, there's only one way to do that, and that is by understanding it in the original text, in the original language, because there's a lot of nuances, there's a lot of details that you will miss in translation, because translation is really a form of a commentary. It is somebody's understanding of the Gemara. It is not what the Gemara says. It's what somebody thinks the Gemara says, and it's not what the Gemara says, unless it is what the Gemara says. But the only way to confirm that is for you to read the original words. And I want to encourage anybody out there, whether you're in my class over here physically, if you're in my class, then I will demand of you and I will be on top of you to make sure that you actually use these sheets, the worksheets that I give you, to know the Gemara in its original language. For all of you out there, if you private message me, I can send you these sheets and you can work together with us to understand the Gemara in the original language. We do not go through the original language in the class a lot. Sometimes we quote it a little bit here and there. We give you the general idea, but then after the class, I want you to go into the original language and see the details, and that is really when you're going to get to understand the Gemara properly. All right? Any questions on that? By the way, anybody out there can ask a question. You can ask a question simply by putting a comment into your platform. If you put a comment into your platform, this computer brings them all together, puts them in my face, just like I said hello to this guy from London and to Mr. Dirtball over here that says next level and Yalla Balagan. So I can see whatever comment you put, I can see it right here on my screen, whichever platform you're on, put a comment, a question, and if it's relevant to the class, we will deal with it. Dan Sadiq has a question. Yes?
Will you explain to our viewers at home how, if you're not referencing the Aramaic too often, so it's translating, how they can go about then going into the original language just based on the summary and conversation that we have in the class?
With extreme effort. Yes, first of all, they're going to get the sheets here, which has the original language. If you don't know how to read Hebrew, you'd have to learn how to read Hebrew first, which, well, it's true, we're talking about Aramaic, but Aramaic is spelt with the same letters as Hebrew is spelled, and therefore you need to know how to read Hebrew before you can start learning it in an original language. There are many options online for you to learn how to read and write Hebrew. I'm not going to list those options. You can go to our dear friend Rabbi Google, and he will explain to you, the Google Rebbe. The Google Rebbe will explain to you how you can learn how to read Hebrew, and then you use my sheets and we'll help you and guide you on how to do that as well. There's dictionaries. There's ways to do it. If you're going to make the effort, you could do it. All right? Any other questions? No. All right. So now I have everybody waiting for what you're waiting for, right? We speak about the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
The Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Yeah. So first of all, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is personally a very personal, if you want to say, inspiration. Not just because I'm Chabad and Chabad always follows the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but I in fact was raised in Crown Heights with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I like telling people that if you've ever seen the videos of the Lubavitcher Rebbe encouraging children, then that was me, right? I was there. I was 9 years old when the Rebbe had a stroke, and from then on he didn't really speak to the public. He did come out to the public, but he did not speak to the public because he wasn't able to speak very well. And I was 11 years old when he passed away. So he definitely had a very personal influence on me personally as an individual, not just in the fact that I'm Chabad and that I follow the philosophy of the Rebbe, but in the fact that he was actually a personal mentor, a personal, I don't know if you want to call it, what do you call it? Role model. He was a personal role model to me growing up, something that I really cared about and I really appreciated. Okay? Now, the Lubavitcher Rebbe was quoted as saying how superior the Jews are to all other nations. And of course, in today's day and age, some people, this sounds like a Jewish superiority. What's it? Jewish supremacy. Jewish supremacy, okay? So I want to deal with this fact, etc., and I want to explain to you guys how stupid that comment really is, okay? Number one, could you tell me one group of people that don't think that their way is the best way? If they didn't think their way was the best way, they would do something else, right? Listen, Meshuggah, go ask a Christian, do you think our religion is the best religion in the world? Yes, we do. Okay, so therefore you're a Christian supremacist. Meshuggah, that's mad, right? Everybody that follows a particular path, they think that their path is the best path out there. There's no question about it, right? Now, that being said, obviously Jewish people think that we're better than everybody else, at least from the point of view of our belief system. We think our belief is better than anybody else. You know why? Because if we thought somebody else was better, we would be following that belief, right? That's number one. That's very straightforward. I think that's pretty normal, okay? I wouldn't call that supremacy. Okay? Now, supremacy would be if I feel that I have the right to control you, I feel that I have the right to own you. Something that belongs to you, I feel that I have the right to take because I'm somewhat of a superhuman being. Like, for example, look at the true the white supremacist in its peak was who? Who was the peak of white supremacy? Huh? Who? The Nazis. The Nazis. They were the peak of white supremacy. If you were white, you deserved to live. If you weren't, you maybe deserved to live if you're worth something to the whites. That is somebody who is willing to harm, willing to attack, willing to steal from somebody else. Okay? Supremacy as a feeling is actually what I think everybody feels, that they're supreme and that they're the best, because if you didn't think you were the best, you would do what you think was the best. There's nothing wrong with thinking you're the best. Okay? Saying that the Rebbe is a white supremacist because he thinks that Judaism and the Jewish nation is the most awesome thing that ever existed on planet Earth is not white supremacy. Okay? As a matter of fact, I want to say that the person that suggested this stupidity, okay, I don't even want to mention this woman's name. This person that mentioned this stupidity, this person officially is representing conservative ideas, okay? But in fact, this whole rant that she had is super leftist radicalism, okay? It's radical leftism. Why is it radical leftism? I'll explain to you how. What does radical leftism do? What do? They take a name of something horrible and they tell everybody that anybody that they don't like, they say this is it. Right? They don't like you, they call you racist. They don't like you, they call you a homophobe, a Islamophobe. They just call you names based on nothing. Okay, that is the modus operandi. Okay, you know what that means? The mode of operating of the leftist radicals is to pick a concept that is in fact a horrible concept and then just start labeling people that they don't like with that name. And that's exactly what this woman did. She's officially a conservative. You're not no conservative, missus. You're a radical leftist that is just trying to gain the influence through calling yourself a conservative. That's not conservative values. Conservative values, A, is built on truth, is built on fact. There's no factual evidence that the Rebbe ever encouraged anybody to harm somebody, to even hurt somebody's business just because they're not Jewish. The Rebbe never said that. Exactly. On the contrary, the Lubavitcher Rebbe was the first rabbi ever in the history of probably in the history of all rabbis to actually suggest that Jewish people should go out there in mass and try to engage people that are not Jewish. Okay, I don't know any other rabbi that said that. Okay, for the purpose of teaching them morals, for the purpose of teaching them a way of life. If you know that many non-Jewish politicians would come to the Rebbe would hand them $1 and say, here's $1, I want you to go give this to somebody else. I actually remember Mayor Giuliani, that guy. Let me tell you, he comes to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Mayor Giuliani, and the Rebbe hands him $1. And Mayor Giuliani, he says, I'm a public figure. I can't take money from you, Rabbi. I'm not allowed to do this because it sounds like a bribe or whatever it is. The Rebbe had to explain to Mayor Giuliani. He explained to him, he says, this is not for you. This is for you to give to charity. Right? It's not for you. I'm not giving you $1. I'm giving you $1 so that you can give this to charity. And that was something that the Rebbe did very often. The Rebbe would give people money, Jews and non-Jews, money to encourage even non-Jews that they should be giving charity. I don't know any Jewish leader in the history that made such a big deal out of trying to have a positive influence on everybody. Huh? So somebody asked I should explain a little bit about the Rebbe giving out dollars. The Rebbe would give out dollars generally every Sunday. There were special times, special occasions that the Rebbe gave out dollars, not on Sunday, but generally for the last few years of his life, every single Sunday he would give out dollars to anybody that came to to get it. Anybody that came to get $1 from the Rebbe, they would get $1 from the Rebbe. And again, it wasn't meant to be a personal gift. It was meant to be that the Rebbe is giving you a blessing. But not only is the Rebbe giving you a blessing, he's giving you the opportunity to do a kindness by the fact that he's giving you $1 with the purpose that you should give this $1 to charity, right? That means thousands of people passed it forward because of the Rebbe every single Sunday. And by the way, if you look at the videos, there's still video documentation. People from all walks of life would come and receive these dollars. You had whites, blacks, Chinese, Mexicans, politicians, regular people, you name it, they were all there getting the $1 from the Rebbe, getting the inspiration. Okay, so I don't know a Jewish leader in the history that so much engaged and cared about those who weren't Jewish as much as the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So to suggest that the Rebbe had this active desire to hurt, to harm, to impose his power on others is the most outrageous and stupid thing. And the only thing I could say it is it's literally a take on the leftist, how should I say it? The leftist way of operating, where you just call everybody you don't like, you call them a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, a Islamophobe, you just throw at them as many names as you could without it actually meaning anything, without it actually being true. That's the fact. Okay? Why are you playing videos and then you don't like what I'm saying? Oh, you're playing my own video. Sheesh, he likes what I'm saying so much he wants to hear it again. I'm not even finished. Anyways, so that's the facts on the ground. Mrs. whatever your name. I don't even want to mention. Why should I mention her name? Why should I mention her name? Shush, I don't want to mention her name. Idiot. Idiot. And by the way, I should say a scam. She's a scam because she's trying to present herself as a conservative. Now I want to go into something else and more deeper on this very topic, okay? She quoted from the Rebbe where the Rebbe said that the entire world should recognize that there is so much they owe to the Jewish nation, and that till today, they owe their existence to the Jewish nation. Okay, that's pretty much what the Rebbe said, and I want to take that apart, because you know what? I hate to break it to you viewers out there, or anybody over here, it's 100% true. Okay, all conservative values, again, I'm talking conservative because this, I don't know what you want to call this woman. She officially represents conservative values. Conservative values are based on biblical values. Where do they come from? They come from the Bible. Before the Bible, people were eating their kids. Okay, they were sacrificing their children to idols, right? They were eating other people. They were, who knows what they were stealing. It was horrible. Go to countries today that are not based on biblical values, and you'll see that they're all horrible places to live with horrible values. The biblical values is the foundation of conservative values and is the foundation of all of the Western culture. And the more the West deviates from biblical values, the worse they're getting. If you look at all the problems today in the West, is because they're deviating from the biblical values. If they actually kept the biblical values, they would be much better off. Now, where did the biblical values come from? Ding, 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 ding. No, where did they come from? The Jews. Yes, the Jews. You say, what about the Christians? Yeah, the Christians, they only started reading the Bible after the Jews lived and died and sacrificed their lives to bring that Bible to you. Okay, they sacrificed their life for about 1,500 years before Christianity even came about. The Jewish people were being killed by the Romans, by the Greeks, and by the way, that's pretty much where most of the Western world comes from. They killed us over this. They killed us because they didn't like us following the Bible. And then there was this guy, you know what his name is? This Roman leader. His name was Constantine. And you know what he said? You know what he said? He said, if you can't beat him, join him. If you can't beat him, join him, right? He says these Jewish people and their biblical influence is too powerful, and I cannot defeat him. He wanted to defeat us, but he couldn't defeat us. And since he couldn't defeat us, what did he do? He decided to take the Bible, reorganize it in a way that it pretty much puts him and the Romans in power. Yeah. And then he basically said, okay, well, now I use the biblical values in order to empower myself. Selfish selfish empowerment, instead of actually looking and saying, wow, this Bible is such an inspirational concept, such great values, such an awesome idea. Instead of saying that, what did he say? He said, let me figure out how to use the Bible to empower myself. I'm going to use these values to make a moral society, because a moral society will empower him. That's the whole point of Constantine. Right? Now, there was one problem there, because anybody that would read the Bible would realize that the nation of Israel is a central and integral part of biblical values. And it's an inseparable part of biblical values. So what did he do? He started putting in these ideas of how the Jews killed this guy and all these anti-Semitic things to try and rip the Jewish people out of the Bible, which he tried very hard, and he managed to murder him and the Christians throughout the last 2,000 years have murdered millions of Jews just to try to rip them out of the Bible so that people shouldn't realize that the Jewish people are an integral fact of life from the biblical values. Okay, that is the reality. And Christians killed us for who knows how long. Right? They still, unfortunately, in some places would like to kill us, right? And then the Muslim also pretty much did the same thing. They took the ideas of the Bible, they rewrote them in a way where it kind of empowers themselves, and then they try to kill the Jews for trying to follow the Bible in its pure and perfect way. Right? And I want to tell you, you'd say, okay, so well, once they have the Bible, now we have it, we don't need you Jews anymore. Wrong. Let me tell you something. Throughout the generations, the Christians were always learning from the rabbis. The greatest priests were always learning the Talmud, and they were asking rabbis questions, and they were constantly trying to engage the Jewish nation because they realized that the Jewish nation is the guardians of the Bible. We are guarding the biblical values. And without us guarding it with our lives and actually sacrificing our lives for the biblical values, those values will disappear from the world. They wouldn't exist. Okay? And yeah, Christians, and by the way, even Muslims till today. I've had Muslims approach me as a rabbi, and I've heard other rabbis that Muslims approach them to understand the Bible properly, to understand how to properly apply the Bible, because in their own areas, there's so much confusion and delusion and people misusing and mistranslating the Bible to try to empower themselves. Okay? That's what they're trying to do. Right? And therefore, the people that actually want to connect with the Bible still have to come to the Jews, because the Jews are the only people that successfully maintain the biblical values ever. Right? Even the millions of billions of Christians and millions and billions of Muslims, because it's so big and so mass, they deviate. And that's why there's so many Christian groups, and that's why there's so many Muslim groups, because they can't hold themselves together. So if you look at the facts of the world today, the facts of the world today say as follows. Okay? Listen carefully. The facts of the world today, you know what it says? That without biblical values, we are barbarians. Okay? And the more we deviate from biblical values, the more barbaric this world is getting. We need to get the world to return to its biblical values, and that's actually why this conservative movement popped up, because they realize how idiotic these radical leftist people are going away from the biblical values and trying to invent new values, and they're just completely destroying themselves. They're destroying themselves as well as others. Right? And they're trying to inflict their damage on the rest of the world. Not only do they invent values that are horrible, they try to push them. They're supremacists. Why? Because they're trying to inflict their damaging ideologies on other people. That's what they're trying to do. Right? That's what the radical left is trying to do. They make up a value that's against biblical values, and they try to push and enforce and bully everybody to follow these values, even though these values are horribly destructive. They're horribly destructive. They're killing people today. People are dying because of these stupidities that are out there, right? People ask me, the Lubavitcher Rebbe actually said Israel is the safest place in the world. Now people ask me, well, hold on a second. If you look at how many people are getting killed in Israel from terrorists, and you compare that to America, you'll see, no, it doesn't work. Right? If you look at percentage-wise, the amount of Jews that got killed by terrorism versus the amount of Jews that got killed in anti-Semitism in America, it's uncomparable. Our numbers are much worse, right? But you know what I tell them? Well, what about raising children in America? What's their chances of dying from drug overdose? What's their chances of killing themselves? What's the chances of them getting killed, maybe not by an anti-Semite, but some idiot running around shooting people because the guy has a red bandana or a blue bandana? Right? That's the whole thing. If the guy has a red bandana, we kill him. If he has a blue bandana, we're his friend. The mishuggenness. Right? This is America. And by the way, if you manage to survive the gang violence and you manage to survive getting killed by overdosed in drugs, you just got to make sure you're not in the wrong stadium when some wacko decides to take a machine gun and shoot everybody up. Or a school, right? Some idiot decides, it's fun, I'm going to shoot everybody up. Right? This is American culture. These are the stupid ideas. Okay, most of these kids, they're coming from broken families. Why are they coming from broken families? Because the morality in America sucks horribly, right? That's why most families are broken. How many normal, healthy families are there in the secular world? People need to come to the Jewish people once again and look at the observant Jewish community and actually watch our families and see kids actually growing up in two-parent households, in healthy places, and growing up in a healthy way, not going on drugs, right? So you're telling me that America is safer than Israel? Okay, so maybe in America there's a less chance dying from terrorism. But if you count all the other variables, it's horrible. It's horrible, right? Why? Because the biblical values are what holds America together, or what held America together. And if they're going to leave it, they're going to self-destruct. Forget about somebody else killing them. They're going to kill themselves. And they are already, many of these people, with these values. Killing themselves. They are. It's a crazy. Do you know what the statistic of suicide is in America?
8%.
I heard it's 1 in 60 people.
4.5% depending on the age range for young people.
34.
34%?
34.5. You know what it is?
Means 1 in 3 young people kill themselves?
Crazy.
No, attempt.
Huh? 1 in 3 people attempt to kill himself. You know what I feel bad? I'll tell you what I feel bad for. I feel bad for those people, because if you attempt to kill yourself, you obviously have such a confused reality that you want to kill yourself. What's wrong with you? Like get out of there. If you ever attempted to kill yourself, run the hell away from whatever culture you're in. Okay, go somewhere else, find something better. I don't know, maybe it's your religion. I don't know if maybe it's your culture, your belief system, your worldview. Something's messed up. If you want to kill yourself, you're messed up. Okay, that's it. Okay, go somewhere and get unmessed up. Right? Go learn some Talmud. I'm telling you, come learn some Talmud with all your heart and all your soul. You won't even think about killing yourself because you'll have too much else to think about. Right? You have to think about the Talmud. You have time to think about killing yourself. Too busy. I'm too busy to consider such stupidity. Right? This guy's laughing. It's true. It's true. Right? And all this is owed to the biblical values that the Jewish people brought, that the Jewish people are still maintaining today. Today. I'm not talking about yesterday. Okay? So yes, Mr. or Mrs., whoever you are out there, that decided that the Jewish people that you don't owe your existence to the Jewish people, you do. You owe your existence to the Jewish people, because without us, you would have already self-destructed with the lack of the biblical values. That's it. I don't care. I'm going to say it straight. You owe us your life. That's it. We saved your life. The very fact that you're alive today is because of the biblical values that we lived and died for the last 3,500 years, and the quicker you realize it, the quicker you'll understand your own need to properly connect with the nation of Israel, to properly understand the biblical values. And I'm not saying that you should become Jewish, by the way. In Judaism, we don't need everybody to become Jewish, but in Judaism, we have biblical values for Jews and biblical values for those who don't want to be Jews, which means the Bible actually has a particular nation that's meant to be a nation of priests. It actually calls us a nation of priests. You know why? Because we have a job in this world. Our nation, the nation of priests, our job is not just to follow biblical values, but to be an influence onto others. And in order to be an influence, your values have to be at a higher level than others. And that's why in the Bible there's higher values and there's more observance required of Jews than of non-Jews. But that doesn't mean there's no biblical values for non-Jews. There absolutely are. There's a whole list of biblical values for people who don't want to be Jewish, right? But you need to connect to the Jewish people to know what that is. Okay? And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can send me a message, you can send me an email, you can send me however you want to get a hold of me, and I can help you get some information on this reality. Huh? Yeah, right here. He has a card here. No, you don't. What, is he going to see it through the screen? Anyways, that's that. Huh? No. We're going to continue, and we're going to finish off with this. Okay? The Jewish people believe that we're almost at the Messianic era. We're literally like on this threshold. Any moment, there's going to be a pop, and Messiah is going to arrive and drastically changes this world for the better. Okay? Now, for those of you who are afraid of not being Jewish, some people are afraid, if the Jewish Messiah comes and I'm not Jewish, he's going to smite me, he's going to beat me, he's going to eat me, he's going to, I don't know what. Right? You know why they think that? Because that's what the other people say. They say, if you don't follow our Messiah, then you're dead. No, let me tell you something. The Jewish Messiah is going to bring peace to the entire world. The Jewish Messiah is not going to need to force his opinions down your throat. You know why? You know why? When do you need to force your opinion down somebody's throat? When the other person can't handle it, they don't understand it. And you know what? Perhaps they don't understand it because it's not true. You ever considered that? If you need to force your opinion down somebody else's throat, maybe you're wrong. Yeah? Messiah will have this brilliant ability to educate and to enlighten every single person in this world to realize the awesomeness of connectivity that God brings to this world, and he won't need to shove it down your throat because you're going to understand it on your own. Okay, he's going to help you understand it. And that's what Judaism believes. As a matter of fact, if you read Isaiah, when he speaks about the Messianic era, he doesn't speak about Messiah controlling the whole world. He says that all the nations will come to Jerusalem to learn from Messiah. That's what he says. Wow. You know why? Because they will realize the brilliance and they will come to learn. And they will maintain their independent nationalities. Their national identities will stay intact. They will not lose their national identities. They will maintain their national identities, but they will
be living under a new world
they
order.
will bring, yes, exactly, the New World Order, exactly. You know what the New World Order is going to be? I'm going to tell you. You want me to tell you what the New World Order is going to be like? Nothing like what you think. All of the conspiracies speak about the New World Order as this horribly controlling government. It's going to be the exact opposite. It's going to be a world where people realize that control itself is a horrible trait, right? If you see somebody killing somebody, like, sorry, that's wrong. You're going to realize somebody controlling another is wrong. You want to influence others, you have to influence them in a positive way. You have to educate them, right? As a matter of fact, those of you who are going back on the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, actually in America, every year on his birthday, they celebrate Education Day. You know why? Because the Lubavitcher Rebbe was known as educating. He wasn't known as he wouldn't make protests. He wouldn't, militant, all this garbage. He didn't have to do it. He would get up and educate and reason with people and explain people the details of reality and the details of spirituality. As a matter of fact, for those of you on YouTube, my YouTube channel is called Intellectual Spirituality. This is from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe wants us to analyze and understand spirituality with our brains in the most rational and perfect way possible. Anyways, with that, I'm going to end this particular part of the class. I do want to remind you guys that at the end of the class, you can ask questions. You could ask questions on the class. You could ask questions on a different topic. I don't mind. The way to ask a question if you are not here physically is to simply put a comment in the platform that you're on. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, put a comment and we'll deal with it. Yeah. Anyone else? No? Next level. Any questions here? Anybody online want to ask a question? Just type it into the comment section of your platform and it comes up over here on my computer. Yeah. No?
What is bet pay with the comma thing?
I can't really see it from here.
The pay,
Huh?
an explanation?
Where? Pedic with chapter, the first chapter it's talking about. All right? Any other questions? Questions? Remember, anybody online could ask a question as well by typing into their comments.
The non-Jews can say the same thing about the Jews. They have 25 different customs and opinions and like.
So first of all, that's actually a good question. Shmuel over here asks why I said how other non-Jewish movements split into splinter groups, etc. And how come, what about Jews? We also have many groups. You have to understand that Judaism, even though we have many groups, they're all based on the same structure. Or should I say, I've said this in the past, the difference between organic and synthetic Judaism. Within organic Judaism, there's many different groups, but we all are surrounded by the same thing. We keep kosher because that's what the Torah says. We keep Shabbat because that's what the Torah says, etc. Right? And we all follow the same rules pretty much. There might be a little bit of a philosophy because the Torah isn't always clear on what philosophy, what worldview to have. Certain concepts it does, meaning do not kill, do not steal. There are certain basics that the Torah does expect for the world, but there's definitely room for individualization. Because God doesn't want every single person in this world to be the exact same thing, right? There is room for individuality, but there are certain basic morals and values that must be kept. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to go into different religions and how that's done, but the fact is that, take for example, Christianity, there's not a lot of real hardcore beliefs that they have, right? It's all pretty much built around, this individual that was Jewish, by the way, and they believe in, some people believe he's a god, some people believe he's a Messiah, some people believe he's a prophet, some people believe he's not a prophet. There's not a lot of hardcore, things in Christianity that you're going to say, this is all Christians believe it, right? There's different movements within Christianity. Yeah. Hardcore. Yeah, hardcore. There you go. Why is the world so bad? I have Chaya Essa. Is that Esther or Essa? Maybe Essa, that's what it says. Chaya Essa. She asked, why is the world so bad? Anybody have an answer for this woman? Why is the world so bad?
Because in this physical reality, we can perceive bad and good, but in the upper worlds, everything is good. So from our perception, we see bad, but in reality, bad is part of God's divine process.
I like this. So the truth is that we just learned yesterday in Tanya that no bad comes down from heaven. There's no such thing as bad in this world. Bad is only a figment of your imagination. Things appear bad. Nothing in this world is bad. Everything here is awesomely good. It's just very difficult sometimes for some people to realize that. Okay? Some people are super positive and they're able to see the good in everything and not in other things. As a matter of fact, we live here in Tzfat. In Tzfat is buried a great Tanaic sage called Nachum Ish Gamzu. Right? And he would always say when anything happened, he said that it is the best thing that ever happened. Should I tell his story?
Sure. Great story.
Should I say his story? Yeah. So Nachum Ish Gamzu, one time there was a horrible decree made on the Jews, and the Jewish people got together and they appointed Nachum Ish Gamzu to go to the king to attempt to take away this law that was established. Okay? Now, they gave him a bunch of gold and silver and jewels to give the king a gift in order to try to find favor in his eyes that he should cancel a particular decree. Okay? Nachum is traveling, he stays in an Airbnb. Well, kind of, yeah. They didn't have Airbnb back then, but he stays at a local place, and guess what? The people that owned his inn, they realized that he had a lot of money in his chest, and they took his chest. But what did they do? They were afraid that if they took his chest and they took all the money, what will happen? When he goes to take it, he's going to realize that they stole from him, and maybe he'll kill them. I don't know what he's going to do. They were afraid. Who knows? They didn't know this guy. This guy was a stranger, right? So what happened is that they filled the chest with dirt, and they figured that he's going to wake up in the morning. He's not going to open the chest to check it. He's just going to pick it up. Because there's dirt in it, it's heavy. It feels like the things are still in there, and he's going to leave. Yeah? And what happened is that he left. Now, a couple days later, Nachum Ish Gamzu opens up the chest, and he wants to see, to make sure he still has the gold and the jewels. And he looks and he sees that the chest is full of dirt. You know what he said? Gam zu l'toiv. He says, this is awesome. He says, this is awesome. All my treasure was stolen and now it's full of dirt. This is super awesome. Did he know how it was awesome? No. But he knew that God only does awesome things, and therefore he continued. He goes to the king. He's like, listen, king, we're here from the Jewish community. Here is a gift on behalf of the Jewish community. The king opens it up and he sees a pile of dirt. He's like, what, you're making fun of me? You're trying to insult me? You give me a bag of dirt and you want to give it? What's wrong with you? The king throws him in jail. And he sits down with his ministers and he's trying to figure out, what should I do with this guy? Maybe we should kill him. He's a horrible offense to the king. While he's talking to the ministers, one of the ministers says, you know what? I want to tell you something. Should I tell you something? There's this tradition that Abraham, when he was fighting wars, he would take dirt and he would throw it at his enemies, and the dirt, each speck of dirt, would turn into an arrow and go and kill his enemies. He says, maybe the Jews are bringing you this dirt. Maybe they're bringing you this dirt. Right, dirt ball? They take this dirt, they throw it at some of their enemies, and sure enough, it turns into bows and arrows and kills them. The king calls out Nachum Ish Gamzu, and he thanks him. He says, what did you want? I'll give you whatever you want. And he says he wants him to take away the decree, and the decree was gone. Zeo. Wow. Right? That's not the end of the story. The end of the story is that the people that stole the jewels, they're like, oh, we have a gold mine. We gave him our dirt, and the king liked the dirt that we gave from our yard. So you know what they did? They dug up their whole yard, and they traveled to the king with this big dump truck full of the dirt from this yard, and they go and they bring it to the king, right? And they go and they tell the king, listen, you know this guy, you think this Jew really brought you this dirt? Really, we stole his jewels. And then we filled it with dirt. But now you like that dirt? I have a whole truck of that dirt right here. And the king looks at them and says, well, let's try it. And they take this dirt, they try to throw it at the enemies, and nothing happens. And the king realized that it's not the dirt, it's the God. And since the king realized that it was the dirt and not the God, he punished these guys for stealing Nachum's chest. Now, what the commentaries explain, what happens if Nachum Ish Gamzu arrived with gold and jewels? What would have happened? A king, maybe, the king gets a lot of jewels. He gets a lot of gold. He gets a lot of jewels. What, he needs this gold and jewels from the Jews, right? The Jews think they could buy a king off with money? No, some people can be bought off with money. Not a king's. They had so much money, they didn't need it, right? There was this very rich Jew that tried to go in and try to convince Vladimir Putin. He tried to speak to him to try to end the war. He almost got killed, right? Vladimir's like, I don't need your money. What are you joking? I need your money. Vladimir Putin needs your money, you Jew. Anyways, if he would have brought the jewels, maybe the king would have said, like, what, you need to bribe me? But because of the whole story, because the person stole his jewels, and God made a miracle, and then the king realized what's going on, that's actually the most awesome thing. God played a trick to make the most awesome thing happen. So back to Chaya Essa that says, why is the world so bad? The answer is because that's the way you see it. That's it. If you see it, that God does everything is awesome, and by the way, if you believe, maybe the first few days, the first few months that you believe that everything that God does is awesome, maybe you might not see it yet. But eventually, at some point, you're going to see it as well. You're going to see that everything that God does is awesome. Nothing's bad in this whole world. It looks horrible sometimes to some people, but it's not. It's an awesome place. We have a question from, can't even see it all the way.
From Alexandria von Edenborough.
Oh, Alexander von Edenborough. He asks, what really happens to a person when they die? Right?
Is there an afterlife or heaven?
So the simple answer is, never happened to me. I don't remember. Never happened to me yet. Hopefully it won't happen for a while. But Mashiach, maybe the Mashiach will come, we'll never have it. There's a lot about the afterlife that is spoken about. Definitely, you definitely exist beyond your body, and I could actually prove that. It's a bit of a long rant that I would require to prove that to you. But the fact is that you as an individual, the only reason that it's actually bothering you what's happening after life is because you realize that it's going to happen. You as a person, and by the way, I've told this to atheists, if you think hard, you'll realize that you already realize that you are not your body. You're something in your body. You're not your body, you're something in your body. Right? Now, because you realize you're something in your body, so obviously when your body dies, then that something that you really are is going to exist in another dimension, in another plane, in another reality. Now, of course, you want to know what that is, right? Now, it's very nice to want to know what it is. It's a big question. There's many books that try and answer this question. What exactly will you be when you die? Right? There's many books. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but what I will tell you is that definitely based on what you do, not what you believe, but what you do in this life, that will determine how, where, and when you're going to do in the next life. Okay? So you must focus on this life, because God didn't give you this life to focus on next life. He actually gave you this life to focus on this life. So start focusing on this life and not what's going to be afterwards. Right? Make the best out of every day. Make the best out of every hour. Make the best out of every minute, out of every second. You need to make the best out of it and accomplish and bring to this world greater, bigger, better reality in a way to make this world a better place. So stop thinking about your death. Start thinking about your life. Okay? That's my answer to you, Mr. Alexandria. Mrs. Alexandria. It's Alexandria von Edenborough. All right? Any other questions? No? That's it? We're done? Das ist die Indien von Klippes Neuga. Oh, Chai S is back here. What if you don't have a life? Then Chaya Essa, if you didn't have a life, you wouldn't be able to type that into the computer. All right? So obviously you have a life. Yeah?
The name Chaya is also life.
Chaya, that's right. The name Chaya actually means life.
Yeah.
So how could you say you don't have a life when your name is Chaya? Okay? You have an awesome life.
What if we're born with health issues?
Huh?
What if you're born with health issues?
So first of all, you need to realize, and I don't ask for this on anybody, but you have to realize that whatever God gave you is the most awesome thing for you. It's the most awesome thing for you. You might not realize it. It might seem horrible and it might feel horrible, but it's awesome. How it's awesome, I can't answer that question. You have to ask God. You could even ask God. You should look up to heaven and say, listen, God, and why are you doing this to me, right? Now, God may answer back, well, I can't tell you right now. But but the fact is there's something awesome in it. There's something that's there for you to learn. There's something for you to gain. Okay? Now, you could sit and complain about it, or you could actually make it better. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share with you a very important life lesson right now for all of you that are watching, including Chaya Essa. Okay? Listen carefully. If you have a problem and it bothers you, you now have two problems. You have the original problem and the fact that it bothers you. If you somehow figure out how to see the problem in a positive light, you just solved half of your problems. Right? You had two problems, now you only have one. Right? And by the way, Chayes, I want to tell you, don't ever underestimate the power of your mind and how the very fact that you think negatively is making your problems worse. Now, maybe not your medical problems, and by the way, it is possible. Sometimes the body realizes that the soul is very depressed, and therefore it breaks down. Very often, I've actually dealt with people that went from living a depressed life to a very happy life, and their health actually matched their attitude. Somehow, because they started acting happy, they actually got healthier. You ask me how that works, I don't know. But don't underestimate the power of the brains. Stop thinking the way you're thinking. Start thinking the way a positive way. Start thinking how awesome every little bit of the reality. Start doing awesome things. Okay? Stop asking why and start, dealing with what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Right? Instead of asking God, why are you doing this to me? Ask God, what could I do for you? And then once you do it to God, you could say, hey, God, listen, I'm doing you good stuff. You do me good stuff. Instead, you just sit there and complain the whole day. Well, so God complains back. You complain, why is God doing this to me? And God's complaining to you, why are you doing this to me? Right? You ever see people they get caught into this thing, right? You ever see a fight? Each person thinks, why are you doing this to me? No, why are you doing this to me? And everybody just screams at each other and continues doing it to each other, and then everybody wants the other one to stop first. Right? Come on, man. That's it. Yeah? You want to make your problem worse, or you want to make your problem better? That's my question to you, Miss Chaya Essa, Mrs. I'm not sure, whatever it is, but that's that. I definitely, no, it is a real question, and I feel bad, and we need to empathize with a person going through pain, right? But at the same time, complaining about the pain is not making the pain better, right? The quicker you start, thinking positive and doing positive things, even though you're in pain, the quicker the pain is actually going to go away. Because the pain, where's the center of pain? The brain. You're wrong. All the nerves go up your spine into your brain and tell your brain when you have pain. So if you're able to refocus your brain, you actually get rid of the pain, right? And again, we should not be happy, God forbid. We should empathize and feel bad for every person that goes through pain. But for the person going through pain, you have to tell it to them as it is. Complaining about it is not going to make it better, right? It's only going to make it worse. You come up with a positive twist, that's what's going to make it better. That's what's going to make you happier, and that's that. Anyways, I think we're going to end this question with that. If anybody else has a different question, remember, just put it in the comments of your platform, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. You put a comment in, and then we will get to the answer of that question. We have another 3 minutes, and then we're going to have to go. So if anybody has any other questions out there, Baruch Hashem, we had a lot of questions from the World Wide Web. Anybody else want to ask a World Wide Web question? Right? We have Mr. Tiger King saying shalom. Shalom back. Thanks for coming. You have a question? Does anybody have a question they want to answer? If not, we're going to shut the live stream. So if you want the live stream to go on longer, you have to ask a stimulating and interesting question for us to deal with, and then it will go on. Otherwise, we're going to shut it off. What do you say? No question? You have a question? What's the question?
What's the proper way to do teshuva if God controls everything? Like, how do you look at it that this was God's will and it's still later repent?
How do you repent and correct something? Well, first of all, you have to realize that God gave you free choice, and that by you making certain choices, you actually did something wrong. And when you do something wrong, you actually apply to yourself. People's brains work in a pattern, right? If you do something once, you're more likely to do it again, right? They say once a criminal, always a criminal. That's not always true, by the way. But when a person does a crime, they're more likely to do a crime a second time. If a person never did a crime, they're much less likely to do one crime. Guy that did one crime is much more likely to do crime two than the guy that did 0 to 1. Therefore, every time you sin, you actually implant in yourself the likelihood of sinning again. And in order to repent, you have to rip that out of your psyche. It has to be completely ripped out of your psyche, where you're just as likely to sin as if you never sinned before. And that's actually what repentance is. All right? Anyone else? Last final questions. Huh?
Is that the month?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Rashi?
Huh? Last chance. We're going to give 30 seconds for anybody to ask a question. If it seems a relevant question, we'll deal with it. If not, we might not. Yeah? We did 10 minutes of Gemara, and that's because it was a review day, and that's tomorrow we're going to be doing much more Gemara itself. Good. I don't know it. Where is it?
To make it new?
Where? Which one?
It's like a middle. Here, Bekidush Hachdash. You proclaim it.
Bekidush HaChodesh. Bekidush HaChodesh.
Month.
Yeah, in the blessing of a new month. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Basically, we basically learn it out, Beperek Kama in the first one. All right, we have a question. Do you believe in the findings of the books of Enoch? The books of Enoch actually are not included in the Jewish Bible structure called Tanakh. They're not included in it. That doesn't necessarily mean that we reject the book of Enoch. From my understanding is the Jewish people accept it, but not necessarily as an official Jewish scripture. And so we learn it, and we might derive certain things from it. A lot of the conclusions of Enoch are mentioned in other books as well. So we might accept it because they're said in the other books, and that's that. Trust me, if you look at the actual books that Jewish people believe in, there's enough spiritual mysticism to go around. We don't need to go to other books as well. All right? And by the way, many of these books, including the book of Enoch, when they say stories, they're not always literal. Very often they're poetic to try to teach you deep secrets, and very often you actually need a proper mentor that could actually help you understand what those secrets are. Not always are the secrets straightforward and easy to understand. All right? Good. We're going to close up shop. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be discussing the concept of why Jews blow that ram's horn on Rosh Hashanah and through Elul. We're going to start discussing that tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, as well as being tested on this past week's material. Thank you for joining. Mwah! Have a good day.